truck hauling a trailer, and from what my boss told me, he was just about to get onto the on-ramp when the traffic was screeching halt. And he said the trailer was flipped upside down, a flatbed trailer, with the rear end of the truck up in the air, and the truck separated, kind of like how it was all flipped around. And he said it was not good, and they had 3 lanes blocked up before.
How about Woodland? Do we have any problems?
I haven't seen any.
That starts tonight.
Oh, is it tonight they
It's
start?
the 8th.
The 8th. The 8th.
Friday,
Which is
Friday.
Friday night. 8 o'clock.
Good. Friday.
Yeah.
8 o'clock.
8 o'clock. PM.
Morning or PM?
PM.
Yeah.
And then it's misery from there on out for 2 months.
Yeah.
Or she's just started, or she there?
And
Gosh, so one side
You?
of high school, one side.
finance.
Yeah, sure.
There we go. And then to Gianna. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4. We can start and we can kick them out.
Little checks are.
Oh, I just signed them. That's why. Just give it all. Are you ready?
Yeah, I was almost ready to text you, be like, I'm done for the evening.
So that is better.
I don't care anymore.
No, that is better.
I had enough time. I got home at 6:10. I had enough time to make a turkey sandwich.
There they go. Look, they're out.
Yeah, as I
Oh, there we
was
go.
walking up
Recording in progress.
There we go.
to come here.
Good evening, everybody. It is 6:31 on Tuesday, September 5th, 2023. This is an executive session for the City Council of Woodland. We will be in executive session until 6:55 regarding RCW 42.30, Section 4, Subsection A, labor negotiations discussion.
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah.
for the record, it's technically a closed session,
Oh,
not an
closed.
executive session.
Sorry, closed session.
No, we'll be
We're gonna go.
moving. You're fine.
This is a closed session for the City Council of Woodland. The time is now 6:31, and we will be in session until 6:55. All right.
Areas exempt.
Recording in progress.
The time is 6:55. We are out of executive session and recess. Are you staying? Oh, okay. Yeah. I was gonna say, I thought she was leaving. I don't know. I just know she wasn't. I was surprised to see her here in there this evening. You ready, Mrs. Hogan? Okay. Just waiting for this to turn here. It should turn any moment. All right. Forgot to hit record.
Recording in progress.
Good evening, everyone. It is Tuesday, September 5th, 2023. It is 7 p.m. This is a regular meeting for the City Council of Woodland. Welcome, Chief Kelly. Wasn't expecting to see you this evening.
Just got back in country.
All right, welcome home. Please ensure your cell phones are silenced and rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Can you please take the roll?
Councilmember Burke.
Aye.
Councilmember Rounds.
Here.
Councilmember Smith.
Here.
Councilmember Holland.
Present.
Councilmember Dowdy. Councilmember Hall.
Here.
Councilmember Alderman.
Here.
Mrs. Dowdy has asked to be excused this evening. She was here for the executive session earlier this evening.
Move to excuse.
I
Second.
second.
Moved by Councilmember Holland, seconded by Councilmember Rounds. Mrs. Hogan, please take the roll.
Councilmember Burke,
Aye.
Councilmember Rounds,
Aye.
Councilmember Smith, Councilmember Holland.
I gotta say
Oh, sorry.
Aye.
I thought you said it. I'm sorry. Councilmember Holland,
Aye.
Councilmember Hall,
Aye.
Councilmember Alderman.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Moving on to citizen communications for item not on the agenda. First up, we have Miss Roxanne. Good evening.
Hi.
Welcome.
I'm Roxanne Nakamura, and I live at 2112 Northwest Hayes Road. It's right across the river, and it's a Woodland address. What I come to you about is there is a proposed quarry that's going to go in, and I think you guys have already talked about that a little bit, but I just want to keep it in mind. Right now, the environmental impact study is being prepared, and it will be decided this next year if the quarry is going to be approved or not for Clark County. And I know that because I went to one of the council meetings about that. My concern, as you probably know, is about the traffic. There's going to be large, heavy trucks that go across the bridge and through the infamous intersection that we all know about. And I'm afraid that the asphalt is going to break down more at that intersection. I don't know if the city takes care of that or the county, but whichever does, there's going to be money involved, and that may be a concern of you. I also am worried about the drivers at the intersection. I know that the lights are very long now. I have to add time on my trip anywhere to account for the light. And I think people are going to be more angry, and it could be a concern of the police and of the city government with people, getting in trouble and being angry with whoever they can be mad at. I would like if you guys could give input to Clark County about this quarry that is being considered, and if the county can get involved too. I know that you guys have some communication with that government too. So that's all I want to say, is that there are more concerns, and as they come up, I might be talking more, but that's all I have right now.
I have a response for you
Okay.
on some of the items. So we have worked with Cowlitz County commissioners, and they're fully on board and supporting us in the effort when it's time to call upon them. When it comes to the traffic, we are working on that. We're currently in engineering phase of exit 21 and having a signalized intersection there, which will be turning over to DOT. So we are very aware of the traffic issue. We've been working on it for a long time. There are some concerns that the city has as well, and we've been very active with Clark County in
Great.
with this project. Are you familiar with the North Fork Neighborhood Association?
Yes.
Okay, are you a member of that?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So we try to send some communication over their way as well. So what we know, they know, and hopefully vice versa, and Mr. Goddard could answer more to that. Some of my personal concerns are that bridge as well, because the city does not own that bridge. It's owned by, half of it's Clark County and the other half is Cowlitz County. So there's going to be some potential impacts with that bridge as well, with the CC Street
Definitely.
Bridge. So we're very aware of it. We're very mindful and pushing back for that
Great.
not to occur.
All right. Thank you.
You bet. Thanks for coming out. Miss Ann. Good evening. How are you?
Fine. I'm not going to yell at you guys or anything.
That's fine.
I just want to say, I brought up maybe a month ago about the the roundabout in front of the corner store and the pedestrian lines, and I noticed that they got painted, and I'm so excited. Thank you so much, whoever was in charge of getting that done.
Ms. Coleman
Oh, Ms.
would be the one
Coleman.
that communicated with Department of Transportation, because it's their
Okay.
road.
Well, I appreciate it. I
You
saw
bet.
those. I drove around and around and around just so I could wait for pedestrians to go. So anyway, thanks, guys. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Mr. Deinhardt?
So I have just a few questions, and maybe we can have a dialogue or maybe not. So, first thing is, where are we at on the food carts at 100 Davidson? I don't see that on the agenda, and it was one of those things the health department was coming, so do we have more information on that piece there? Not that time. Is there a financial analysis that'll be coming along with that for the building, you know, the value of it with the port and all that?
That doesn't have anything to do with the food.
I'll answer that. The port and the city will be having a meeting. That hasn't occurred
Okay,
yet.
so, got it.
This project is on a temporary basis, so.
Yep, okay,
Uh,
that makes
on a
sense then.
permit.
Yep, okay. As someone who supports local business, like I do, I'm against mandates, I'm against the vaccine, I'm against masking, all that. Are we doing anything proactively as a city to protect our businesses with the uptick and, you know, the big push that some people are trying to do? Are we being proactive on anything?
Not sure what proactive looks like to you, Mr. Deinhardt, but in past, when we faced these conditions, we took an educate, not enforce effort.
The council all did, and then you didn't sign it, but okay. So I just want to know if we're doing anything
Well,
proactively. So we're not
There's
doing
a
anything
reason why I
proactively now.
didn't sign it, and it wasn't
Okay.
that I didn't support it. And it sounds like you're changing your tune from our conversation we had a few months ago. that you
Absolutely,
said
I'm
follow the
not
rules.
changing. No, hold on a second. I said I would follow the rules and I would wear a mask if I'm required. I mean, I'm very open. I'm not vaccinated. I mean, I spent most of my time in Florida. So, and then I guess the last thing I would ask as well, there's a lot of rumor and talk that, you know, I would get rid of City Hall and people there, which I think is a total bogus rumor, and somebody who actually is pro-worker. And so my question is, on the consent agenda, last Thursday, I saw that there was a amendment for employee contracts. There was 4 or 5 of those on there, and then on Friday they were pulled off. Could you give us a little background on?
Well, they're not on here because they're not ready yet.
Okay, so is that conversation that you were pushing down that way, or is that conversation they were pushing up that way? Can you just give us a little more?
It's an internal conversation. I'm not quite sure what, it's an employee contract. I'm not at liberty to, we haven't even discussed it with council yet.
And so it was an error being out there on the consent agenda?
No, it wasn't an error. They just weren't ready.
Okay,
Okay.
thanks.
Mr. Blisle?
Good evening. Planners Days 2024, we're ready to get started planning that. The next meeting is going to be the third Tuesday of this month, September 19th, at the VFW at 6 p.m. Please join us. I might even bring my ukulele and play a song. But the dates for 2024 are the 13th, 14th, 15th, and 16th of June. And so to make that happen, we got to start planning it right away. The first, one of the first things we'll be doing is looking for sponsors, as well as starting our theme contest. Theme contest is kind of the kickoff.
All right.
That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for coming out tonight. Anyone else for items not on the agenda? Mrs. Butler?
Yes, this is kind of an old song and dance here. This is about water bills, and all this time, I've never said a word about them, and I just pay my bills. And I still am. I just think it's interesting, though, that last month I received a water bill for $617. The previous 3 months are $172.77 exactly. Anyway, but this month I just got it today, and it is $36. So I think they're getting it squared away and settled out. We did a lot of watering. We did a lot of new planting, so I expected a bill. But while we were paying it, it never went out. Anyway, my point is I don't think it's completely resolved yet, the billings and stuff. So I know if it's been there have been improvements, but there's still more. And Melissa mentioned several meetings ago when Minall was on the phone, maybe, I think it was at that meeting, that you might want to, when the contract comes up, to seriously consider whether to go forward with that. Now, I don't know that that would be a Minall problem. That could be the reader's problem, or it sounded more like a meter reading thing, and I know you just renewed the contract for the meter reader. But anyway, I just to kind of keep on top of that.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Butler. Anyone else for items not on the agenda? All right. Anyone online? And moving on to the agenda itself this evening.
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Round, second by Councilmember Smith. Mrs. Hogan.
Councilmember Burke,
Aye.
Councilmember Rounds,
Aye.
Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Holland,
Aye.
Councilmember Hall,
Aye.
Councilmember Alderman.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Moving on to reports of City Council.
I could go.
Okay, Mrs. Holland.
Something I'm not really involved with, but I thought would be really interesting to share is that the Friends of the Library are going to have another one of their fundraising book sales Friday, September 8th and Saturday, September 9th from 10 to 4. This time it's going to be at the church at 2000 Lewis River Road.
At the Promise Church.
I think it's the one
Sorry.
closer
The
to
Baptist.
I think it's
The
one of those.
Baptist Church.
I'm not sure which one.
Okay.
My spouse just said the one by my house, so.
Is it?
Which church?
Gun Club Road, one that had the sale previously.
Don't know. Whatever 2000 Lewis River Road, I'm reading it from an email today. Cause I thought stop it.
That would be Lewis River Road, though. One
Yeah,
of those churches.
2000 Lewis River Road.
corner of Gun Club and Lewis River Road.
There you go. So that's where their book sale's gonna be,
Nice.
just cause
Still need to raise money for the new library.
they do. And then my other thing is, so then that was because I saw that in an email, and then I just wanted to, Woodland Action Me would like to, thank the mayor for stopping by. People don't realize he actually does that periodically to talk to, clients and volunteers at the food bank, and it's very impactful when, folks do stop by and ask, clients how they can help them in a way that, maybe Woodland Action cannot provide the service for. So, that's kind of helpful. I just wanted to say thank you,
You bet.
because
Got a lot of information out.
you
about
did,
visit. I did.
and people really appreciated it, so that's all.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Alderman.
Everybody knows what time of year it is, it's football time. I'm involved with the youth football program, and we're starting to get kicked off. And next weekend, I happen to coach the 3rd and 4th grade with my grandson, and Councilmember Smith's son's on it, and a great group of kids. But anyways, that starts next Saturday, season starts. So please come out and support the little ones, because it's not too much longer, because we know how fast time flies. They're gonna be up there playing high school ball, and they're a pretty fun group of kids to watch. So come out and support the youth football, please, and the cheer.
There's a jamboree tomorrow, right? I think so, at the high school.
You still have to travel to Tootle?
Huh?
You still have to travel
No,
to Tootle?
our first game, as far as 3rd and 4th graders, we play Castle Rock. We play in Castle Rock next
Okay.
week.
I think
Yeah.
Tootle and Woodland meet in Kelso
Oh, good.
to split the difference.
That's gonna
I've
be
made some
fun.
trips up to Tootle to watch.
That's where I
so.
raised my boys, is Castle Rock. Now I get to go back, and the kids that I coach are gonna be coaching against me again, so that's gonna make me feel old.
And I think that Woodland Youth Cheer, I think they're doing 7th, 8th grade team because of the levy failing, so the
Right.
middle school is not
Right, the
doing
youth football
high
took,
school this year, so it's good on them.
right, the youth football program took on the 7th and 8th grade teams because of levy failing and everything, so, guy's name that heads that up?
Tony Parsons.
Tony Parsons. If you guys ever see him out and about, if you know who he is, thank him. Because that man works tirelessly for the youth football program. And he's a coach in the high school team on top of that. And he holds down a regular job, building logging roads, construction. I helped him get the gear out and getting everybody geared up. And it's a lot of work. A lot of work. Him and his wife are amazing, and they really need to be a pat on the back. So
I think Justin Gabbard does quite a bit too
yes,
with
yeah,
the
he
football
oversees
program.
all the coaching. Justin Gabbard, everybody. So just please come out and support the little guys. Thanks.
Are they doing ticket sales this year for the cheer team?
I don't know for sure.
We didn't see our little show.
I think they're talking about doing it like team wide, like football players cheer everybody, but I don't have any details on that yet.
Yeah, they haven't any word about that at all.
Yeah.
All right. Mr. Burke?
Yeah, I'm in charge of the Grange, and we're kicking off with the Snowflake Bazaar and the Turkey Bingo, which is on November the 18th. So mark your calendars. That's going to be a big event at the Columbia School. Same place we have it every year.
Doesn't usually sell out too.
And we usually, yeah.
Lose room.
Come early or don't fit.
Thank you for the reminder.
That's the old middle school for us
Right.
old folks.
No,
Oh,
It's
No,
the
the
old middle
elementary.
It's the old middle
Elementary.
school.
Oh, elementary school.
The one by the river.
The Columbia
Right.
is the old middle school, yes.
okay.
Yes.
Oh, that old.
Thank you. Thank you. I just want to know where I'm going.
I wasn't here that far back.
For all the
Hey,
short
really
timers,
follow
it's
us all.
Columbia
Man.
Elementary is where it's at.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's they call it the Columbia School.
Okay.
It's the elementary school.
Anything else?
I'd really try.
Oh, Mr. Boyce?
Just a process item. We didn't amend the council rules to take public input on action, on
Oh.
agenda items.
I make a motion to amend the council rules.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Rose, Round, seconded by Councilmember Smith. And to be clear, what are you amending the rules for?
People being able to speak.
Public comments before
Public
each action item.
comments. Yes.
Okay, perfect. Mrs. Hogan?
Councilmember Burke,
Aye.
Councilmember Rounds,
Aye.
Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Holland,
Aye.
Councilmember Hall,
Aye.
Councilmember Alderman.
The ayes have it. The council rules have been amended and just became standard practice, so I forgot. Sorry. Moving on to reports of standing committees, public safety.
Public safety, we met today. What was brought, the two things need to be brought up. Our officers can do a blood test on a person, which has saved the officers from having to wait for certain people. We have them qualified for that. And we have 2 pilots certified right now, and they could use another one, so if somebody wants to.
Is that for the drone?
Huh?
For drones,
Of
yeah.
the drone, yeah, of the drone.
I thought, wow,
I
we
think
get
they
an
have to be,
airplane.
and I think they have to be police.
Yes, they do.
Yes, they do, okay, so.
All right, thank you, Mr. Burke. Public Works?
That's me. It's 9 pages, so I'm just gonna hit the highlights of what we went over. We met tonight, just some highlights. Water treatment plant, transfer pump 2 motor failed. It had reached the end of its usefulness and it's been replaced. Regarding water meters, there were 21 bad meters that were replaced this go-round. And you might remember from last month, they've been calling folks with high water usages, but there were so many of them that they had to robocall folks to let them know that they had unusually high water reads. So let's see. Oh, we had a lot of water usage because it was hot and people were watering, and so that also created kind of an issue where we were, our water levels were a little low, and they were picking up some gunk, which doesn't make the things work very well. Let's see. Oh, for the people angry about road work, Westcott full depth reclamation and pedestrian improvements are moving forward well, hoping to pave from the railroad west to Sherman's by 9:15. The summer crew person is the one that's been out doing curb painting over in Raspberry Park. If you live over there, you notice that they painted some curbs. They'll be back when the sun's out more consistently.
Can you speak louder? We can't hear you.
Here, we'll get closer. This summer help, we're out doing curb cleaning and painting over in Raspberry Park. When the sun's out again, they'll be back. They had to replace some signs because people keep driving over them. Let's see. Oh, over at Horseshoe Lake, here's a thing. So people are finding it amusing to go into the women's bathroom and vandalize it on the regular. So city employees have to go in and clean that up. Somebody vandalized the buddy bench. So, yeah, carving things and painting things and just shenanigans. Let's see, what are some other things? Gorg Park, another one that folks are upset about. So that's closed so that Public Works can do some repairs in there and some cleanup. Everybody will be super stoked when that one's done. Some of the folks have been shuffled around from departments and are getting the appropriate training. Folks have left, so new people are taking over those spaces. And there was one that I thought was kind of interesting. I'm not sure. Besides the people driving over our signs, just stop. That's just, I don't even get it. Yeah, that's good enough, I think. I mean, they had another, back to water treatment. They had another bad setter and a pipe failure. But I would suggest, folks, if you have questions about projects that are happening in the community, to call Public Works. Ms. Coleman's always happy to help folks with those questions because, again, posting on Facebook, Ms. Coleman's not there, and so she doesn't read those. So if you call her, she'll tell you what's going on with a project, that if a road is closed or whatever. And then we ended at 6:27? Yeah, about 6:27. Yeah, there
I
you
had
go,
to kick you out of the room.
6:29.
Thank you, Mrs. Holland. And moving down, there is a resolution to support a supportive Larch Corrections Center that was sent to me from area municipalities. They are closing that this month, and that is where we get our cleanup crew for the city.
Yes.
It's closing for good.
Yes. So a resolution was sent to all the cities, and hopefully you read it. And I would like your feedback if that's something that council would like to move forward with in support of letting the state know not to shut it down. So just a little bit of background. They do train a lot of folks that end up working in the municipality for wastewater, clean water. They give them the opportunity to get job skills as they re-enter back into society. They also provide cities like ours cleaning crews to go through and weed and rake up leaves and help beautify the city at a very, very low cost, especially when everyone's challenged with employees applying all over. So we will no longer have that. And has that stopped? That's stopped at this point, hasn't it?
Yeah, we've only had them once this month. They also support WashDOT.
Okay.
For the cleanup on the exits, so we end up having to take them too.
So you've heard Ms. Coleman talk about the jail crew a number of times during these meetings. So the jail crew will no longer exist at this point. So you'll start to see some buildup of litter and trash and branches and those types of things throughout, obviously, WashDOT properties, and then our crews will get to them as soon as they can. But We do have some volunteers right out here at the roundabout, the Kiwanis Club. That takes care of the roundabout out there for us, helping put our resources elsewhere. And so there is a resolution of support out there, and I can bring that back to the second meeting if council would like that, or I'm open to discussion. Mr. Alderman.
Quick question. If by chance they do end up shutting down, what's the chances of getting work crews out of Cowlitz County?
So
Have we ever worked
I
with them?
don't know that Cowlitz County has the ability to do that at this time.
It's a staffing
They do.
issue.
It's
Yeah,
staffing
they
issue.
don't have the
It's staffing
staff.
issue. I believe the gentleman that runs that has retired or has moved on to another position. So that one is also going away.
That's too bad.
I don't mind supporting a letter to the state to not close.
Yeah, I would agree with that, that there's nothing that we say that probably will change their mind.
No, probably
It's a
not.
financial thing, I think.
It's the
but-
state, so,
Yeah,
yeah. But yeah, I would get behind keeping it open.
But I agree that we should support it.
So, they also provide, do they not also provide fire?
Yes,
like
they do.
The
Yes,
fire
they do.
crews?
Yes.
Yes, they
So
do.
you would also be
The
losing,
hot shots and
Yeah.
stuff like that, yeah.
okay.
Speaking of which, I believe that crew, I'm not sure if they came from Larch, but a similar crew was sent down to the fire here in the center. I think there was about 76 of them that were sent to help fight that. So, and that was from Larch. I've seen
Yes, it was from Larch,
It's from
and my
Larch.
family was affected, and I thank everyone, even including them, for saving my family's property and our livestock. Yeah.
Thank you. So we're gonna go ahead and close that because it's necessary apparently. So I will get a letter drafted and up to them. Thank you. Mr. Boyce.
Okay, well, the good news is I wanted to report that we have a tentative, microphones, yes. The good news is I wanted to report that we have a tentative agreement with the Woodland Police Officers Association. Next meeting, City Council will consider the contract. So we're able to do it in 2 meetings, which is unheard of, so I'm excited about that. With that said, just the upcoming events, September 7th, we have a comp plan open house, 6 p.m. in this room. Excuse me. And September 18th is the next city council meeting. We don't have movies in the park, unfortunately, any longer to add to that. That's my report.
All right, thank you, Mr. Boyce. At this time, we've come to consent items. Is there anyone in the gallery that would like to speak to consent items? Yeah.
I have a question. You were talking about blood tests by the police. I haven't heard about that. What was that about?
Chief, are you able to answer
You
that?
want me to field that?
Yes, please.
So the department started a phlebotomy program. We have 2 officers that are certified to draw bloods for DUIs. And so it saves us a lot of time. We're also available to other agencies because a lot of times they have to take them to the hospital to go see an actual phlebotomist. But these officers in your department now are certified to be phlebotomists. And they go through that training every 2 years. And they have to do so many blood draws per year, plus continuing education. So they're certified from the Department of Health, certified by the state of Washington as well.
Thanks, Chief. See no one in the gallery for consent items. Anyone online for consent items? Seeing none, we've come to consent items.
Motion to approve consent items.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Smith, seconded by Councilmember Rounds. Mrs. Hogan.
Councilmember Alderman,
Aye.
Councilmember Hall,
Aye.
Councilmember Holland,
Aye.
Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Rounds,
Aye.
Councilmember Burke.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Moving on to action items. Is there anyone in the gallery for action item C, resolution number 768, surplus city assets, that would like to speak to that item? Is there anyone online? Seeing none, we are at action item C, resolution number 768, surplus of city assets.
Make a motion to approve resolution number 768 surplus of city assets.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Rounds, seconded by Councilmember Smith. Councilmember Rounds.
A lot of these items was in 100 Davidson, and they don't have any place to store them, and they have lots and lots of file folders and all that kind of stuff, so it's, might as well get a little income out of the deal.
Councilmember Smith.
No comment.
Further discussion? Seeing none, Mrs. Hogan, please take the roll on action item C, resolution number 768.
Councilmember Holland.
Aye.
Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Councilmember Rounds.
Aye.
Councilmember Burke.
Aye.
Councilmember Alderman.
Aye.
Councilmember Hall.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Moving on to action item D. Is there anyone in the gallery to speak to action item D, Woodland Civic Center award to Colf Construction, lowest bidder?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. My name is Bill Fashing. I'm the director of the Cowlitz-Wahkiakum Council of Governments, and just want to make a couple quick comments on this item. Several years ago, the concept of the Six Rivers Trail emerged to connect Lewis County to Clark County with the trail system through Cowlitz County. Castle Rock was the first agency to move forward with construction on an element of that project. Kelso soon followed, and it's great to see, from my perspective at least, Woodland potentially taking a step to help support that long-range regional plan network. An initial feasibility plan was conducted to guide the project several years back. It and other plans document the need for, on regional trails, that they talk about the importance of trailheads and trail amenities. I'm excited to see the action before council tonight regarding the Civic Center. This facility with its restrooms, parking, water station, and more will be a great asset to the region and to the residents of the community. This quality of place investment will add value to the local quality of life, as I said, and these amenities will benefit area residents and help attract visitors, cyclists, and such from outside the region to spend dollars here. So from a regional perspective, this is a great opportunity to help move a regional project forward. Be glad to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Fashion. Anyone else for action item D, Woodland Civic Center award to Colf Construction, lowest bidder? Anyone online? Seeing none, we've come to action item D, Woodland Civic Center award to Colf Construction.
I'd like to postpone action item D for till the next meeting.
Motion on the floor by Councilmember Burke to postpone action item D to the next meeting. Not seeing a second. Action item D, Woodland Civic Center award to Colf Construction.
Make a motion to approve Woodland Civic Center.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Rounds, seconded by Councilmember Alderman. Councilmember Rounds.
Well, it's like Mr. Fashing said, it's using our tourist dollars to do that. Am I correct?
Some of them are,
Some
yes,
of them,
and
okay.
Ms. Coleman can answer that
Okay.
as well if you'd like some
So
more.
I think it will only help our community and the trailhead and the whole bit, so.
Councilmember Alderman.
I just think it's another place. It's the start of a new beginning for our old part of town. It's a meeting place. It's gonna be a nice place, updating. It's gonna be a place where we could use, rent out, and make some income off of, like the little place across from the junior high now. There's gonna be lots of opportunities to make some money off of it, and that's what. That's the big thing for me, is making some more tax dollars and bringing more people into the town.
Further discussion? Mr. Smith.
I see the amount budgeted is 600,000. How much is the actual project on there? Trying to scan through there, it's kind of hard for me to walk through it.
So the actual project cost will be 600,000 or less.
Okay.
That will be the budget and the cost.
Okay.
And may I
Yep.
say something else? This has been a project that's been in process for over a year. It has been working with Downtown Woodland Revitalization as we are moving downtown from the current intersection at US Bank, and we're moving it forward to revitalize downtown all the way to the intersection exit 21. So DWR is involved in making sure that we update downtown. Working with Cowlitz County and Clark County for years to be able to make sure that we can include it as part of that Six Rivers Trail, working with Clark County to go around the backside of the river, trying to work with them to get the sidewalks. As you know, we just updated our sidewalks there for a bike and pedestrian lane, which is 10 feet wide. So it's really a conglomerate of a multitude of individuals and entities to come together to put this to, like Mr. Fashing said, a trailhead or a trail end, whichever way they want to go. We worked with the library to do the design to make sure that it blended with the library as you enter into town, so it blends with that new library design. So it really has been a process working with multiple entities for over a year to get it to where we are. And we also negotiated down the price. The bids came in high. The lowest bidding contractor was willing to work with us. We value engineered the design. We readjusted the floor slab with the monolithic pour to have it be a little thinner but still meet the requirements and guidelines. And we decided to go with an open beam concept versus a bunch of sheetrock to reduce some of the costs down. So everybody's really working together, and we as Public Works are taking on a little bit of the landscaping on our side to be able to bring that cost down, to be able to have something that we can afford that's also a nice asset to the city.
Thanks.
Do you have a follow-up?
Yeah, just
Sorry, Mr. Smith.
As far as that corner goes, I agree. It would be nice to have something nice there, and I'm hoping eventually the visitor center will end up in there. I don't think that's for sure planned yet, but I'm really hoping it does. I think if we can get rid of the current visitor center, I think it'll make that corner look a lot more appealing to the eye.
Mr. Burke?
The reason why I wanted to pull it off is because we didn't get the agenda item until today, on email today. How many people have actually read the whole contract that we're passing?
What part do you want to talk
The whole
about?
thing,
Oh,
the whole
I,
package.
trust me, I read it. What part do we want to talk about?
Well, I just wonder how many got this package before today to read it.
I got it this afternoon, and that's why I was asking what the cost was, because it was a difficult thing to kind of navigate through.
So that's the reason I asked to pass it, not pass it, to hold it to next week, have them resubmit it next week, when we all get a chance to read what we're passing. Because I'm gonna vote a no, just because I haven't been able to read it. Next week, I might vote for yes.
Mrs. Rounds?
What's the funding sources gonna be for this building?
I actually put that in the agenda item. There's 3 different funding sources. Well, actually, there's 4. The Port of Woodland gave us funds. The Cowlitz County tourism dollars, the Woodland tourism dollars, and what was the fund, Pete? Fund 3?
Fund 301, the
301.
General Capital Savings Fund, and 58,000. So 58,000 from park impact fees.
Oh, park impact fees, thank you.
472,000 from Fund 301, the General Savings Fund. Cowlitz County Lodging Tax, 30,000. City of Woodland Lodging Tax, 30,000, and the Port of Woodland has offered 10,000.
The Port of Woodland has already been submitted for reimbursement because they allowed us to submit our engineering design plans. So when we made that payment to the engineering plan, they went ahead and said they would pay for a part of those funds. So that's already been submitted for reimbursement.
Mr. Smith?
And this is pretty standard contract language for contracts we do for the city.
It's actually a little better because it's lump sum, so it's not to exceed where that isn't where we are normally have. We've negotiated down where we said we cannot spend more than 600,000, period. So
Yeah.
it's not to exceed 600,000.
From what I've seen, it's prevailing wage as well, so that covers that.
Yes. And part of it's for this year's spending, because they'd like to start pouring the foundation this year, and part of it will be for next year's spending and next year's budget.
Further discussion?
And we do have
Hall.
authority from each of the, like the lodging tax sources. We have authority to use those funds in that way. I mean, I think that's part
Yes.
of what JJ's raising.
Yes, 100%. As a matter of fact, when Mayor Finn and myself had a meeting with Cowlitz County lodging tax dollars, they were more than excited. They actually gave us less, and they came back and gave us more because they said Woodland has needed this for a very long time when they figured out it was going to be part of the six Rivers Trail. I'm going to say six something else, but anyway, Six Rivers Trail. They actually came back and gave us more money. Yes.
Mr. Smith?
And this is not a surprise to us coming here. It's been talked about for a long time as far as this building. So I'm not concerned we got it today. Looking through it, it doesn't look abnormal to me. And I've got a couple of questions that I had answered.
Anything further? Ms. Hogan, please take the roll on action item D, Woodland Civic Center award to Colf Construction.
Councilmember Alderman.
Aye.
Councilmember Hall.
Aye.
Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Councilmember Burke.
No.
Councilmember Rounds.
Aye.
Councilmember Holland.
Aye.
The ayes have it 5-1. Is there anyone in the gallery for action item E, Department of Health low interest loan, 2.25% for new water reservoir number 4?
So I guess my question is combined, sort of. So Tracy, if I look at the two projects, they're about $6.4 million is what we'd be looking at. 2.25% interest, 20-year loan. So it's basically a $33,000 payment that would be expected every month out of the city. So then if I look at the number of water users and the water usage and current rates, it looks like it's about a 10% rate increase to cover that $33,000. Is that built into, or is that already part of current rates?
Am I allowed to?
Yeah.
Okay,
No.
okay,
yes,
thank
please,
you. I just
sorry.
wanted to make sure. I'm
I'm
following the
assuming, Mr.
procedure.
Deinhardt,
Well, I
yours-
gotta make sure.
Yeah.
So no, we already calculated, that's based on current rates. Right now, we already calculated it based on the current rates and not having to increase the rates for this loan.
Okay, that's
Yes.
all my question was.
Yes,
is
yes,
just
sir.
Didn't know.
Yes.
Was that, Mr. Deinhardt, was that for E and F?
Yeah, that was
Okay.
for enough if I added them both together, just for simple math.
Thank you. Yes.
I asked, is this new water reservoirs, is it for, maybe I should say, are the reservoirs currently supplying the people?
That's a great question. Currently, there's a leak, and we've been directed by the Department of Health to fix it or build a new one. Council decided months ago when we came through with the evaluation to build a new one, just based on the fact that it was
Is that gonna be based on supplying the city or supplying further development?
supplying the, Ms. Coleman, go ahead.
Yes, so what we have to do is we're required by the Department of Health to replace our existing 500,000 gallon reservoir. In addition, we are short 500,000 gallons. So when we decided to, I say we as a council, decided to move forward, they decided instead of spending $1 million to replace the current 50-year-old concrete tank that's leaking, they decided to go ahead and build a new reservoir and replace that, so decommission that 500,000 and replace it with 1 million gallon. And they said it was only a couple $100,000 more dollars to do 1.5 million, which is for future. So they decided to put in 1.5 million because it was so cost effective to do so. And so right now, just this last weekend, and we reported that in the Public Works agenda, we almost had to go on water restrictions because of water usage. We have to keep at least 500,000 gallons in reserves for fire flow. We were coming down to the point where we were not able to keep that 500,000 in reserve, so we were going to have to put water restrictions on to the citizens because we couldn't keep up with the water demand. Did I answer your question?
Mr. Bowen.
Not quite.
Okay.
Is there enough water to run the city? You just said that you were running low. But the added capacity, is it just for this city or is it for future development also?
It's both.
Why shouldn't they pay for it?
They will pay for it when they come in.
So right now, we put the bill until they pay for
The bill has already been footed with your current water rates. It's already been calculated into that. We are not raising the rates to replace this reservoir.
I got it, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Ms. Bond. Anyone else in the gallery for action item E, Department of Health low interest loan for new water reservoir? Anyone online? We have come to action,
I have one question for Ms. Coleman.
we'll wait until you,
Yeah,
your
until
discussion.
we- yeah.
Okay. Come to action item E, Department of Health low interest loan, 2.25% of new water reservoir number 4.
Make a motion to approve action item E, Department of Health low interest rate loan for water
Second.
reservoir number 4.
Sorry, I cut you off.
Moved by Councilmember Rounds, seconded by Councilmember Hall and Councilmember Rounds.
Well, it sounds like we need it because the other one is going to be too expensive to fix it. And it makes good sense to go ahead and increase the flow also with more, being able to furnish more water than what we have capabilities of right now. And it's not raising the rates, so.
Councilmember Holland?
Back when we were having the conversation about the utility rate study and what we were going to do with whether or not we raised the rates, this was one of the mitigating, this was one of the things that really,
Spurred the.
yes, it determined that because, it is the law. We have to have it, and it can't be leaking, and it's gotta be able to hold a certain amount of water. So, there you go.
Further discussion. Mr. Smith, sorry.
I think the current reservoir is leaking 20 gallons a minute, is that right? 10 gallons a minute?
I have to look that up
Yeah,
because
I
it's been a
can't-
long time since I presented that, and I can't guarantee you it's only leaking that right now.
Yeah, I know.
It's been leaking for, we're going on 2 years, and we have until, we had to get this approved and start construction by the end of this year per the Department of Health.
And I
we
think
had
we
to come
sent
to
divers
conclusion.
down to repair it. And
The
they reduced
current-
it down to what it is now, which I thought we said we were sending 1 million or gallons of water down the drain, down the storm drain every year.
I am not gonna say that until I look it up, but I'll look
Okay.
it up while you guys have discussion and get back to you. But, we did not send divers down because it was not seismically sound.
Okay.
We had already repaired it twice, so it's just not worth the repair.
And then regarding the expansion or to add more capacity, that's done through rates of hookup to help the expanding of the city. So like if you run a sewer line down a road, when you go to hook into that, that helps cover the cost of that. So you put it in before then, which helps a business to be able to build on that property so they don't have to run a sewer line from the plant all the way to their property. So as businesses come in, they're paying a fee and paying their portion of that cost. So yes, they do expand, but the cost will be made up as people develop their properties.
Mr. Alderman.
The new tank, the 1.5 million. So with our new developments coming and the possibility of something going on Gun Club, is that 1.5 million gonna be able to handle, is it gonna be enough for everything? Or a few years down the road, are we gonna be coming back and saying, well, we need to do it again?
I can't answer that question unless I know what development we're talking about that's going in. So I need to know the demand and the flow. But as of right now, we only needed 500,000 that was on the books to meet our current flow, 500,000 to replace it, and we're adding 500,000. So we haven't added 500,000 for 30 years plus. So we're now increasing 500,000, replacing the 500,000, and doing our 500,000 that we were supposed to add due to growth. So I can't make a determination. I mean, if a big, huge seafood plant comes in here And they use a multitude of water. I can't determine that. It's all dependent on water usage. If it's 5 houses that go in, absolutely. If it's 15 seafood plants that go in, I can't answer that. But they're supposed to pay into the system based on their water use. So, and we have a tiered system based on water use. So,
Further discussion? Seeing none, Mrs. Hogan, you please take the roll on action item E, Department of Health low interest loan, 2.25% for new water reservoir number 4.
Councilmember Hall,
Aye.
Councilmember Alderman,
Aye.
Councilmember Holland,
Aye.
Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Rounds,
Aye.
Councilmember Burke.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Moving on to action item F. Is there anyone in the gallery for action item F regarding Department of Health low interest loan, 2.25% for restoration and media replacement of filter number 2 and 3? Mr. Deinhardt.
I would just want to make sure I understand this correct, Tracy, because if I look, so if it's, when you're saying it's already built in our rates, we should be building up a fund now. So we actually are building up a fund in that account.
we are adding money to our reserves every year,
So
correct?
it's going in the reserves and then you'll transfer the, got it, okay.
When you say it's going to, I want to make sure I understand your question. What do you mean by it's going into reserves?
So I just was making sure that the fund is accumulating additional dollars.
We are adding money, when we're paying our payments for the loans, we are also adding money into the reserves as well. That's correct. That's one of the requirements of the loans to take,
Agreed.
yes.
And I just want to make sure, and then, you know,
Yes.
when we had our rate increase here in May, I just want to make sure that that rate increase is actually covering it all.
Yes, when I did the calculations to look at this, I looked at our current value of revenue, not our next returning years on our investment, you know, so I didn't look at, oh, if we keep increasing it at 5%, I'm counting on those dollars. I'm not counting on any of those dollars. I did all the budget based on current revenue stream, not future revenue stream.
Mr. Bone?
I think, you know, I really thank you for the opportunity for people to speak, because it gives it, makes it feel like we're in and you guys are doing a good job. I have one question regarding this. What are filters 1 or 2 and 3? Does anybody in here know? I mean, you, any, you?
I do, but I'll defer to Ms. Coleman.
So we have presentations on our city website that I've presented the filter. I'm just letting you know if you want to see pictures. They're on the city website. I have PowerPoint presentations and I've presented them in council meetings. The filters are basically, it filters your water so it's safe to drink after it goes through the chlorination process. So it filters that before it goes out into the distribution lines. So it's a final cleansing process, I guess I would say it.
And it's not adequate, what we have now is not adequate?
If you would look at the pictures, the answer is no.
So we're drinking sour water?
No, you're not, because we already refurbished one of the filters. Now we're going to 2 and 3.
Are these filters gonna supply our new residents of 4, 5, 6, 800 houses?
The filters supply the current residents and for the future capacity of our 1.5 million gallon reservoir, yes.
Will those people be paying their part of that bill?
Absolutely, when they sign into, when they pay their money into the system for a hookup. Yes, and their utility rates, yes.
Thank you, Brad.
You're welcome. Yep. Nobody gets off free.
Anyone else in the gallery? Anyone online? Seeing none, we've come to action item F, Department of Health low interest loan, 2.25% for restoration and media replacement of filters number 2 and 3.
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Hall, seconded by Councilmember Rounds. Councilmember Hall.
Yeah, I think we understand the necessary moves.
Councilmember Rounds.
I concur.
Further discussion? Mr. Alderman.
How often do we have to replace these filters?
So we're replacing the media in the filters and we're restoring the filters themselves. The last time we did it was over 15 years ago. So about every 15 years, I would say, it's due. But the other thing I want to share is that one of the reasons why they corroded out was because we had a poor filtration system And 3 years ago, we redid the entire filtration system, which are new HVAC in the water plant. That was another capital project that we did. So that has stopped the deterioration and the corrosiveness in the water plant.
So they're lapsing 10, 15 years, no problem though.
We shouldn't have any problem with the new HVAC. There'll be maintenance, but it won't be a full restoration like we're doing now. But I will say that we should plan on putting the money in the reserves, so in 15 years we have the money in reserves to be able to do it without having to take out a loan. But we have some big loan payments coming up because that hasn't been done for year upon year upon year. So that's why we have to take these low interest rate loans out, because we don't have the money in the reserves. So hopefully, getting these done, putting some money in reserves, we'll at least have at least 50%, I would hope, you know, in 15 years to be able to pay for part of them, or at least start with one and then 5 years later work with the next one and go on. So that's the goal, put the money in savings, right, for the new roof.
Anything further? Ms. Hogan, please take the roll on action item F, Department of Health, low interest loan, 2.25% for restoration and media replacement of filters number 2 and 3.
Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Rounds,
Aye.
Councilmember Holland,
Aye.
Councilmember Burke,
Aye.
Councilmember Alderman,
Aye.
Councilmember Hall.
Aye.
The ayes have it. The time is 7:57. Does council need a break before workshop? All right, we will take a 8-minute break and return at 8:05.
Thank you.
Recording in progress.
Mr. Smith.
The time is 8:05. We are back in session and moving into a workshop. We have two items this evening. The first item is ordinance number 1543, 2021 Building Code Update Workshop item. Mr. Goddard, I'll turn it over to you first.
Good evening. There are two items on the agenda today, and the first one is about the 2021 Building Code update that is coming in. I will make this brief, mercifully brief, I should say. So the building code gets updated every 3 years, and so it was 15, 18, and 21. And when the 2018 code was supposed to be adopted, because of COVID and other hardship issues, the state decided to delay implementation of the 2018 code. And that was only adopted in June of last year. And the 2021 code was supposed to go into effect, I'm sorry, 21 that was. The 2021 code was supposed to go into effect July 1st of 2021. So rather than doing a code change on June 1st and then another change on July 1st, the state decided to wait until this year to implement the 2021 code. So we had the 2015 code for almost 5 years. We've had the 2018 code for 1 year. And now the state is going to the 2021 code at the end of October this year. And so we are simply just adopting by reference the 2021 code minus the parts that are not applicable for Woodland. So of course not all of the building codes and fire codes and mechanical codes and plumbing codes, not all of them are applicable to us. So for example, snow loads in certain areas, and there are some standards that aren't applicable to us that might be applicable in, Michigan, where they have significantly higher snow loads, and we might have higher rain loads than they might have to deal with. So each state tweaks the code as they see fit, and in this case, the Washington state has adopted that to go into effect at the end of October. Any questions?
Are you just on the building code portion right now? Or both?
I'm sorry?
Are you just on the building code portion?
Building code, because
only,
it's the
okay.
first item on the agenda.
Okay.
But it's the exact same thing for the fire code.
Okay.
But I know that there's, fire district is here in case there's questions about that one.
Okay. Questions for Mr. Goddard on the building code itself? Mr. Alderman.
Is there any major changes on the new one compared to the 2021 or the 18?
There are, but unfortunately, I'm not an expert to be able to tell you about the specifics. There's change to the, that came in 2018 that had to do with the energy efficiency code was a big part last time. And so everything gets updated as technology changes, but most of it is just new science, newly adopted code standards that the industry expects.
Okay. See no other questions. Number 2. Same story.
Same story.
Same verse. Same as the first. Wait, how does that go? Second verse, same as the first.
Same as first, yeah.
There you go. Gentleman in the back, do you have anything to add? Chief Jackson, welcome.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of
you.
council. Generally, it is the same. You'll see that it does appear to be a number of red lines on the code. The way that comes to be is historically, there was the state adopted code, which is the minimum standard for the state, and then Woodland had a set of other fire specific regulations. This is only the second time, I guess the second cycle, where we've tried to clarify that for the consumer to make it a little bit easier to use and navigate, so it's all in one place instead of saying, oh, here's the state code and here's something that conflicts differently in the local code. So there are no substantial changes proposed in the fire code. The language that you see is putting the language from the international code and the state code, and there are a few things then in there, kind of like Mr. Goddard alluded to, that are optional things to adopt, whether it applies or doesn't apply for access roads and things like that. So those are the parts of the code that you'll see that were redline sections to bring those pieces together under one code. We are aware that there had been a request and a proposal to take a step backwards on the fire sprinkler ordinance. Currently, we have a fire sprinkler ordinance that has been in place for a number of years, prior to my tenure in Woodland, with the threshold at 5,000 square feet for sprinklers. And when we look at public and community fire protection, it's kind of a layered approach that has a number of impacts. Obviously, our number one mission is protection of life. Number two mission is protection of property. But with that, other things come into play, things like insurance rates and those sorts of things. And we're in a somewhat rural area where we cover 3 small cities and surrounding rural area. So obviously our response is not as robust as you would anticipate, say, in downtown Vancouver or places like that. Albeit oftentimes our industry is not much different. So with that, we have a little bit of a layered approach, and that's part of our proactive approach with the fire sprinkler ordinances. Because we do not offer the same kind of robust response that we have in some other areas, that has been part of our mitigation strategy, is to have that fire sprinkler ordinance in place. And I am pleased that with part of that, so you may be aware of Washington Survey and Ratings Bureau. It's an independent bureau set up by the state to provide information and things that property insurance providers use to set property insurance rates. One of the key pieces that they use is what they call a PC, or a protection classification, where they assess the water system and the available water, they assess the fire department, they assess our communications, they assess the codes that are in place, they assess how those codes are enforced, and then together put that together and provide ratings that our insurance companies use to set their rates for property insurance. They give a rating of a 1 to 10. For the last several years, we have been a 4. We're pleased that we were recently re-rated, and with our increase in staffing and with our efforts with the fire code and enforcement of that code, we actually have improved that rating, and that will be effective in October, and we'll have some information coming out about that, where we will move from a protection class 4 to a protection class 3, and that should have a positive impact on folks' insurance rates. Some of the challenges, if we go in a different direction from where we've been on the fire code, that could negatively impact those insurance rates as well. And when we look at like the sprinkler ordinance, I know there's been some concern saying, well, the international or the model code, the state minimum code, does not have that 5,000 square foot requirement. And that is true. We, like I say, that has been one of our decided mitigation strategies for several years now, to have that in place to help manage, and really meaning where we don't have to have as robust of an industrial response, and we can still benefit from some of those better insurance rates. So we would encourage the council to keep the ordinance where it's at with the 5,000 square feet. The rest of the red lines really are language cleanups, anything. Occasionally the code is complicated enough. There's things where we find things that are in conflict, and we just work to clean those up with the adoption cycle. But there is no proposed substantive changes in the code at this point.
What about CRC with the 5,000 square foot building that is all concrete and no employees in the building?
So things that what we look at is there's a number of things. The buildings themselves generally are not our major fire risk. It's the contents of the building. And there are things that we can regulate with the fire code, but it becomes tricky, and the system isn't really set up for us to go through, short of specific hazardous materials and that, and be very nitpicky about what folks have. There are packaging and products that package non-combustible products that can be a concern. There's often forklifts, powered industrial trucks, oftentimes office furnishings, office equipment, those sorts of things that protect that. And with our sprinkler ordinance, it also puts us in a spot with our, I say limited response, but limited relative to other areas that have industrial type operations. That with that limited response, dealing with any of those sorts of fires in a non-sprinkler building certainly puts a substantial further risk on our folks, as in addition to just the employees that are there. And we're not, when we look at the protection class through survey and ratings or all those sorts of things, unfortunately, we can't just say, well, since we can't say, well, we're going to let you not sprinkler your building, and survey and ratings would look at that, and as far as in the whole code standpoint, the exceptions aren't really granted for when they look at protection classification. So it could impact our insurance rates and protection classification if we started granting exceptions. And from an operational standpoint, there's also a challenge to be able to say, well, we can't put our folks at risk, so if there's something in your building, we simply won't respond, or we'll respond and just protect surrounding structures, isn't really a position that we've been comfortable being in the past or wanting to do. So at the moment, we rely on the sprinkler ordinance and those sprinklers, and we're fortunate in Woodland that really all of our large commercial buildings are protected with fire sprinklers, and that makes it to where we can have a smaller response, keep our folks safe, and help make sure that we keep all of those fires confined to their space in the building of origin, whether that's a fork truck or the product itself or the packaging of the product or idle pallets that folks are waiting to put the product on. Any of those sorts of things are protected with the
So you're saying that they're required to have a sprinkler system in this concrete building?
Yes, currently with the city ordinance, any structure 5,000 square feet or larger
But aren't
require
they,
fire sprinklers.
And Mr. Gardner, you can help me out with this one. So the conversations that we've had with them, they're stating, obviously, that they have a non-combustible product. They're trying to expand. We delay their expansion because we have to go through these inspections and the requirements. But yet we always grant them a, what's the use of the permit where they're able to operate without that sprinkler system? Conditional use permit, thank you.
Right.
So we're granting those, but we're just holding them up. So with this particular
We
business-
have made an exception on their most recent structure based off the size and that. And then now it becomes something we'll have to continue to enforce as far as specifically what sort of vehicles, powered industrial equipment, containers for the product and those sorts of things that are in there, idle pallets and that, we'll have to make sure that we keep an eye on to make sure that that doesn't create a risk that wasn't part of what the arrangement or the agreement was. But I know there had been a proposal to look and use the model code the state uses to apply for a little bit broader brush for different storage and manufacturing occupancies to increase that fire sprinkler ordinance up to, I think it's 12,000 square feet is where the minimum standard is that the state sets. And like I say, those things would likely impact our insurance rates, certainly put us in a different position from a response standpoint for other buildings and how we would have to look at and consider that if we took a step in a different direction from where we've been in the past. Are there any other questions?
Questions? All right. Thank you, Chief.
Great. Thank you.
Appreciate you being here this evening. Anything else, Mr. Goddard?
I would like to add a quick comment. I have been dealing with Columbia River Carbonates on this and having this discussion. I understand their point of view, and I understand the chief's point of view, and I want to make it clear that there is an avenue, and this is the avenue they went through with their last building that allows them to justify not having sprinklers. And as the chief mentioned, the processing area of their newest building does not have sprinklers in the processing area, but it does in the offices area.
Correct.
And it was negotiated through they were able to justify to the fire protection services that it was warranted to do partially sprinkled, partially not sprinkled. This code would make it so that they don't necessarily have to have sprinklers without having that conversation. And my personal concern is if the fire protection rating and the fire insurance rates for everybody goes up because of the inconvenience of negotiating on a building by building basis for one development or one developer. I think that's something that we should take the chief's, listen to the chief's advice, because it may not be worth it in the long run. Because in the end, you know, if Columbia River Carbonates has a plan for 6 more buildings, I completely understand the pain in the neck to negotiate on 6 different buildings, because I'm the guy on the other side of the table who's having to referee that wrestling match between Columbia River Carbonates and Clark Fire Rescue, Clark Cowlitz Fire Rescue. It would be simpler for us to just sit down and say, okay, for these next 6 buildings, one's going to be 10,000 square feet, the other's going to be 40,000 square feet. Let's just do a single agreement for how the buildings are going to be handled from now on and negotiate at once. But instead we get into this, well, we added 8,000 square feet and let's wrestle. And then 3 years later they come back, well, we really need 20,000 square feet, let's wrestle again. I don't like that, and it's not efficient, but neither is risking everybody's fire insurance for the sake of avoiding those 6 wrestling matches over the next 20 years. So I understand both sides, and unfortunately I'm the one who's kind of refereeing all those individual maps or matches. So
Mr. Alderman.
Chief brought another good point, and you're having this much problem with them now. So, in their part of their building, it's not combustible, but we all know people think businesses change, go different directions, and they bring something in later on. We're going to have to be policing to make sure they stay not combustible in that building, and we agree to it. So that just adds another part to it that we gotta, if they say they're that way now, we're gonna make sure they stay that way. So I kind of like the 5,000 foot, especially when you look all the things combined as far as everybody's insurance rates and I think it's a good idea.
Mr. Goddard, are you looking for any direction this evening from council, or just a heads up of this is coming and how we go through the process?
So it's just a workshop to get the input and get it on your radar. Clark Cowlitz Fire Rescue provided a copy of the language that they're preparing for all their jurisdictions, and their next step is going to be to specifically make some corrections for the Woodland Municipal Code. Like, for example, there might be stuff about marinas that's applicable for Ridgefield, but not for La Center and Woodland. So they're going to tweak it for each of their jurisdictions, and they'll get that to us. All I need to do is theoretically write up a ordinance that refers to the code sections that you would like adopted or that meet the state code. And so really, it's going to be coming before you at the next couple meetings because it goes into effect at the end of October. So this is more of a heads up. So this is your opportunity to see it and start that conversation and ask me questions if you have any.
All right, I don't see any at this time. All right, the time is 8:24. We are out of a workshop and at the end of our meeting.
Make a motion to end the meeting.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Round, second by Councilmember Smith. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The ayes have it. The time is 8:24.